Teri Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Okay, Teri, you are an elementary school teacher out in the Middleton School District, and this is your very first time on a podcast. So welcome, welcome to the whole experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you here.
Thanks.
Okay, so there are some big things happening in Middleton.
Yeah.
And also, you are the very first elementary school teacher I've ever had. Yeah, I know. I like to celebrate like the very first. Like it's fun. It's a good time. Yeah. Okay, so tell me, what is it like to be an elementary school teacher?
Busy. It's busy and you stand up all the day long. I often say if we could like normalize medical scrubs for elementary school, I would be very on board with that. But I've always taught first grade. It's what I really love. It's a lot of emotion management for little humans. My kids are 6 and 7, so they've literally been on the planet for 6 or 7 years. Like, they're figuring out how to even be a human, besides figuring out like how to do math and how to read and all of the things. So I definitely feel like kindergarten and first grade, there's a lot more teaching of just, I don't know if it's even life skills, but like emotion management and social skills, all of that kind of stuff, which I actually really, really like. So there's a lot of that. Then, of course, my biggest academic job is teaching a kid to read, which I love. I think it's super fun. At the same time, you're responsible for the day-to-day instruction that's going to happen in your classroom, how you're going to teach the what that you're teaching. You do a lot of collaborating with other people on your grade level in the building. There's a lot of communicating with parents. I mean, on any day, you never know. I got an email yesterday morning from a parent who had a concern. It was a valid concern. Let's talk about it. Do you want to come in? Sure. So 2:00, I'm sitting down talking to a parent, Kid might puke on me today. You never know. Every day is different.
Every day is different. I really like the idea of the scrubs. Like, whoa,
Right.
yeah, if you could wear that on a regular basis,
Like,
because you're like on the floor and you're over
Right.
here and you're in the small chair. I mean, you're outside in recess.
Absolutely. And different buildings are different. My building is much more like, we're totally cool with our principal to wear pretty, I would say like sporty attire. I rock the school t-shirt on most days with, whether it's just like with slacks but most times with joggers, like honestly, and tennis shoes. Because that's the world I live in. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I was like starting to substitute teach again after like years of like just not even being in the classroom. And my sister-in-law, who is a nurse, came and we were like talking and she was like, hey, have you ever been to Athleta and like seen these pants? And I was like, no. And so we went to Athleta and she was like, these pants look like they're dress slacks, but they are the most comfortable, almost like joggery type of material. It changed my life.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, these are incredible. I can see why you want to wear these on a regular basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're doing a lot of that. And I spend a lot of my day like, my back can't really handle like bend over the students' desks anymore, but my knees can't really handle the squat next to the students' desk anymore. So I just scooch a little chair around and I just sit down next to you. But there's a lot of that all day long.
Oh, yeah. It's like, so I have subbed for elementary school teachers. So I started in history and geography teaching like in high school. Like that's
your jam.
Yes, totally. Those are my people. And coincident, like actually, like I'll never forget doing, it was before student teaching in my college. We had like a semester where we went to a week in each type of class. So it was like a week in elementary school, week in middle, week in high, and then some type of an alternative experience.
Okay.
And so I actually taught a week at the juvenile detention center.
Awesome.
Which was really cool. And the things that they were telling me about rules and what you say and how you interact was like, they were just things that I had never thought of before.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. So it was very eye-opening. I really had a great experience. Anyways, but I remember going to the middle school and thinking like, oh, I can't do this age. Like, I'm really grateful for those middle school teachers. Yeah, I totally do. And I remember having like great experiences like in middle school, like great middle school teachers. So, but I remember being in that elementary school and I taught 5th grade. I was in like I was in there for a week. So I wasn't teaching anything, but I was in there having an experience with 5th graders for a week. And I remember by the end of the week, these kids were like giving me hugs and all the things. And the teacher basically said, these kids are just, they're there, they want to connect with you, like they want to have that experience with you, and they express that love, you know, in different ways.
Yeah.
And I just remember it being like really tender. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just think that elementary school really is like such a special time,
Yeah.
you know, in a child's life, and they really want to connect with those
Yeah.
teachers.
I think so too. I mean, especially because we have a 4-day week in Middleton, so we have a longer school day. So I have to be pretty honest with myself, and I tell the kids this at the beginning of the year. You're going to spend more time with me than you do with your mom and dad on all the days that we come to school, for sure. And when it was 5 days, I felt like it was like total overall awake hours was pretty balanced. But on a day, you know, if you figure that we start school at 8 o'clock, so if that kid woke up at 7, they saw their parents for 1 hour. School gets out at 3:40, and if they go to bed at 7, which they probably don't, but like, let's say they go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, like you've got a few hours there. So they're with me longer than they're with their parents on any given day. So we have to have a climate that is conducive to caring about each other and loving each other. And you can't ignore that part. Not only do kids not learn if you ignore that part, but you're just not acknowledging the humanity of the people that you're spending your time with. Like, why would I want to spend that much time in a place that doesn't feel that warm, fuzzy way? Like, I wouldn't want to be there, and they wouldn't either.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been teaching first grade your entire teaching career?
Yes, but I haven't been teaching the whole time.
Okay.
So I graduated I finished my pre-teaching at BYU in like 1998. And I did an internship because I would have graduated in December if I student taught, which is not a great time to graduate when you're teaching. So I took the option, instead of student teaching, I did an internship, which at that time meant that you interview with principals. It was also in the I don't remember what they called it, but it was like in the highly impacted schools, basically. So you interview with principals, the principal picks you, but you don't know what grade you're going to teach. And so the principal picked me. I said, great, I'll come to your school. It was in Salt Lake, but I can't remember now where. Anyway, and then he told me first grade. Great. So I was the classroom teacher for the year. So to the parents, I'm the teacher. There's a college supervisor that's in the building that's there to help you out and mentor and everything. And it's great for the school district because they only have to pay you half of a first-year teacher's salary. That's what you make. So I had that experience, which was fantastic. It was a very highly impacted school, and the way you decide that is based on transiency rate, which means if you start the year with 500 students in the building, you have 500 move in and move outs through the year. That's a 100% transiency rate. In my classroom, that meant I might have 20 chairs, and 10 of them are the same kids all year, but the other 10 chairs, I have 2 or 3 kids who rotate through those chairs during the course of the year. So it was that kind of a school. It also included the overflow homeless shelter in Salt Lake. Those students would come to us in the winter. We had a lot of families who English was not their first language. We had a lot of those. And a really low percentage of parents who had been to college themselves. So it was that kind of a school. And I loved it. It was fantastic. I really liked it. And I feel like if you teach somewhere like that, you finish and you're like, I can teach anything, any place to anybody. So I did that. And then I taught a couple more years in that school district. So I taught 5 years. Then I stayed home for 18 years with my kids. And then I came back in the fall of 2021. So I taught first grade that whole time. And then I'm back teaching first grade now. So this is my 9th year of really being the teacher.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I love that. Well, and that's what, like, to me, I mean, that's like one of the beautiful things of being an educator is that, you know, there is that ebb and flow of people, you know, coming and going based on what is going on in their family, right? And we do need teachers everywhere. Yeah. So that's awesome. And then, so you are up here in Idaho, you teach at the Middleton School District. What is that like?
So Middleton we've lived in Middleton for about 10 years. My family moved here we were in Utah, then we lived in Central Florida, then we moved here. We didn't have any connection here. We moved here for a job. But Middleton is still when we moved here, a fairly smallish community. Lots of people have family there. You've got a few like really big families, you know, they're like, oh, there's a lot of those cousins running around, you know. But in the 10 years that we've lived there, it has grown a lot. So in some ways, it's become a much more diverse community in some ways. And so now you have an interesting combination of people who have lived there a really long time and people have only lived there a couple of years. We have one high school, one middle school, and 3 elementary schools. I think that's it creates a really tight community. The high school is the Vikings and everybody in town's a Viking. Like that's just how that rolls. And the middle school uses the same mascot the high school does, which I think is pretty fun too. So I'm really lucky. Our elementary school uses the same colors and we also start with an M. So I can wear all my gear to all the things and it kind of, matches out. But
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that's really fun.
Yeah, that's way cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in a community of like 10,000 people, kind of, so very similar to
Yeah.
Middleton.
I think that's about what it was when I moved here.
Yeah, I think it's bigger now. You're right. Yeah. But like, yeah, people had been there for like generations and my family was one of those families who's been there for a long time, but then, people coming and going and, moving in and stuff. And like, I mean, I would have loved it if my middle school had we had one high school and one middle school. And I'm thinking, yeah, that would have been like really awesome to have the same mascot and colors because then, it just like goes through all the years.
Yeah. I think kids just buy into it a little bit more, it's fun. And even my kids, so I've got boys right now who are in high school and my next door neighbor has a daughter who's in, I can't remember, 7th or 8th grade. So my boys pass down their athletic sweatshirts to her. So she thinks it's super fun to wear like a high school football sweatshirt to middle school, but it's the same, it's a lot the same. So
I love that. That's way cool. Okay, so you're a teacher. I mean, one of the things that's going on in Middleton right now is this proposed school bond, right? Where your school board said, hey, we want to build a new elementary school. And so they're bringing that to the community and people are going to be voting on that on March 20th. On
May 20th.
May, thank you. We're in March. They're going to be voting on it May 20th.
We were 8 days late if it was March.
Good catch, Teri. Yeah. Good catch. So they're going to be voting on that on May 20th. So tell me, as an elementary school teacher, what's like one of the first things that you think of, like as a school district employee, when you hear school board is going to go to the community to pass a bond, like to request request bond funds? Like, what does that mean for you?
I mean, I think it's important for people to a lot of people, once you don't have kids in school, you aren't in a school. And some people, even if your kids are in school, you may not be in your school building that much. So there are a lot of dynamics to what is happening in a building that if you're not familiar with a building, you might not really think about. Most of the time, we just think about classrooms. Like you need more classrooms. That's what we're looking for. But there are other things that have to happen in a building too. All those kids have to have lunch. So if your school starts to become more and more full and crowded, you can still only fit so many kids in the lunchroom. So either their time to eat is shorter, or you extend the window when you're serving lunch, which means some kids are eating lunch at 10:45 in the morning, but yet school day goes till 3:30. Or some kids are coming at 8 in the morning and their lunch isn't until 1:30 in the afternoon. Those are just some like real logistical issues that have to happen, right? Elementary schools are often built with some rooms that are dedicated for certain things. A music room is going to have some different amenities inside of it than a classroom that you're typically going to use. But when a school becomes overcrowded and now you need to use the music room as a classroom, you can, but it's not going to function in quite the same way. Students don't have hooks to hang their coats and backpacks on. You've got risers in a classroom now. You've got different kinds of storage facility. And now you have a music teacher who's coming to classrooms on a cart with whatever she can haul in a cart rather than having students come to her in the music room. So her ability to teach is impacted. And if she's going to teach music in my classroom during my prep period, now what I can do during my prep period has also been impacted by that. All those logistics. So just some of those things are things that people don't really think through. A bathroom is, I'm sure that when a builder designs a building and a bathroom, you're thinking how many people are going to use this bathroom in a day? How much janitorial staff? How often are they cleaning it? All of that changes. If you've got 120% of who you would expect to 150% using those bathrooms, the impact on the bathrooms, it changes. So just lots of those things that you don't really maybe think about. How many families a principal needs to know? Our principal is amazing. The way we do pickup in the afternoon is the kids who arrive, we have kids who ride the bus, we have kids who walk 2 different directions, and kids who get picked up by car. The principal stands out on the front sidewalk and she watches the pickup line, and she can see in the windshield who the parent is and calls out the kids' names to come get ready for your parent. She knows every family by car and by adult who's picking them up. And if she sees an adult she doesn't recognize, they'll pull all the way up. She'll say, "Who are you here to get?" And they'll tell her, and she's like, "Let's go check that." Like, she knows every family. And we have 700 students in our building. So that's awesome that she does that. At some point, it becomes untenable for a human to be able to remember all of those kinds of things and all the needs of families and all of that. So you just start to get to a point where just having more square footage for a classroom isn't really serving the needs of your entire population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're at an elementary school that is over capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 elementary schools in Middleton, but 2 of them are over capacity.
Yes.
And so that's why the school board is saying, like, hey, we would like to build a new elementary school. So is your lunch schedule like what you mentioned, where kids are starting that early?
I mean, kindergarten has the first lunch, and their lunch right now is at 11. So kindergarten starts at 11, but those kindergartners, we have full day kindergarten. So they have school from 8 to 11, have lunch. Then they're still in the building till 3:30. So it makes a pretty long afternoon. 5th grade, I think, is at about noon right now. So that's feasible. It's workable. Mm-hmm. But, if you start adding more classrooms, more students, then that schedule is going to start to get stretched out.
Right. And I think at the other elementary school, it
probably is.
Yeah, it probably is.
I think their lunchroom is maybe even a little bit smaller than ours. So that makes a difference too.
And then do you guys have portables at your school?
We have 6 portable buildings, which means we have 12 classrooms in portables. All of the 5th grade is in portables. Most of the 4th grade is in portables. And we have 2 special education classes that are in a portable.
So talk to me about what that means to be in a portable as like a teacher.
Okay. So I've never taught in a portable, but I know that some of the struggles that you have are, for example, when a portable unit arrives, it's just 4 walls. There's no built-in storage. There were no whiteboards or any of that kind of thing already set up. And a portable costs about $250,000. I think in theory, school districts would love to be able to rent them, but at least at the time that we needed to add 4 more a few years ago, there were none available to rent. Probably because once they go up, they rarely ever come back down. So our school district then paid $1 million a few years ago to add 4 portable buildings at our site, as well as a couple at another site. So probably $1.5 million to add portables. And then you have to buy the furniture that's then going to go in the portables, because you're already using that inside with everybody else. There's, like I said, there's no storage. So the teachers, any materials that they're not using, for example, 5th grade's going to do a unit on the human body, but they're not going to keep that stuff in their classroom the whole time. There's no cabinetry or anything to put that in. It's got to come back into the building to get some kind of storage. There are no hooks for student backpacks or any of that, so you've got to figure out some sort of system that you're going to do out there. So there's all of that kind of thing that you're doing in a classroom, the tech, whatever, all of that. And the reality of how schools and teachers work is, if you're a teacher who's being moved to the portable, you are moving yourself. Like, if I used to teach in the building and now I'm going to teach out in the portable, I am moving all of my stuff. Maybe my family's helping me. Maybe I've got some colleagues that are helping me, but there's not like a moving staff. Probably your custodial staff will help you with furniture and things, but that's a lot of work and effort for a teacher to physically do. And then on a day-to-day basis, teaching in a portable, there are no bathrooms in portable classrooms, with the exception of the portable that was built for our special ed classes. They put it very close to the building so that they could tie into the sewer system, so that they do have bathroom facilities. Otherwise, students have to leave the classroom and go into the building. Well, that's fine, but we're also always concerned about school safety, and we make all of these arrangements. We spend money to make sure that our schools are secure, And yet we're going to have a 10-year-old leave the portable building, walk over to the building with an electronic pass to open the door and get themselves inside to go use the restroom. At Heights, at least a couple years ago, they had second graders in a portable. So then you have to figure out, like, what's the safety of the students going from the portable inside to the building, let alone the amount of time that takes and how much time they're away from class in order to use the bathroom and come back. Like, you're missing a lot. If a teacher needs to go to the bathroom and you're in the portable, like, you have to, sometimes portables will have a door between the two classrooms. So sometimes you can open that door and you may be able to say to your other teacher, hey, I'm running into the bathroom. They don't always, so you may not. So you have to get somebody from the inside of the school to come outside of the school to cover your class so you can go inside of the school to use the restroom and come back.
Oh my gosh, I was at a parent group meeting the other day, and I was like meeting with, like, just interacting with the parents, and I asked one, I was like, oh, what do you do? And she, like, owns her own business and stuff. And she's like, I'm a retired teacher. I'm like, oh. And so we were kind of talking, and I was like, so, like, wow, that's really cool, you're retired. She's like, yeah, so the biggest thing for me is that I can go to the bathroom whenever I want. Like,
it's crazy.
That's what she said. And so she was talking about how sometimes, I mean, she was joking about how sometimes she hears bells and, like, will get up to go to the bathroom. And she's like, oh, nope, I don't
have to do that.
I don't have to do that anymore. But, like, like, when I have subbed as an elementary school teacher, that is the one thing that I think for me always is like, oh, I can't go to the bathroom right now. And I drank that water and I really need to go. And like, we're in the middle of something.
My whole job is to talk all day long. So I'm also drinking water all day long, but I can't go to the bathroom. And in elementary school, we don't have a passing period every 50 minutes like a middle school or high school might have, where maybe you can see. No, when my door closes at 8 o'clock, I'm on duty supervising students until 11. Like, if I have recess duty, I also go to recess with the students. So
yeah, it's really interesting. And then just even, like, the difference between an elementary school and a high school, like, just in terms of, I mean, you mentioned, like, a prep period. So a prep period is like that time when, students are out of the class, so teachers can prep, whatever, up for a lesson, do grading, those types of things. At a high school, and even, like, at a middle school, it's different depending on, like, what the schedule is. Like, if you're on a block schedule, that high school teacher has 90 minutes, to get stuff done. Are you grading all your papers then? No, you can't get to it. But you're probably, getting to you're getting to tasks, okay? But it's also an opportunity to, like, go to the bathroom, have a snack, do all those things. But in an elementary school, your prep periods are very different.
45 minutes. And it depends on the teacher. For me, depending on the year and depending on the class, sometimes legit that 45 minutes is turning the lights off and putting on really quiet music, because I've been so overstimulated by all the things that I just need to be able to chill out a little bit. So sometimes that's what your prep period is. But it's 45 minutes. Another thing that happens in a school that's overcrowded is you, to a certain extent, lose the flexibility of your prep period, because my students are at specials. That's when my prep is. So in our building, we have 5. We have art. Can I name them all?
Oh, yeah.
Art, music, computer, PE, and library. And they rotate that through. But on a year that we needed to convert the computer lab into a first grade classroom, then the computer teacher had to come to my room to teach computer. So the student stayed, she stayed, that means I have to go. Okay, that's fine. 1 out of every 5 times I'm going to have to go somewhere else. I can take some papers with me, I can make copies, whatever. Then on another year, in addition to computer needing to do that, then we also had to use the music room for a classroom. So now the music teacher is also going to come around. That's fine. So 2 out of 5 I lose. On a subsequent year, we had to convert the library into half a 5th grade classroom on one half of the library, and the other half of the library was the art room. So now the librarian is going to come to each classroom as well. She's going to stock a cart for first grade and come to first grade and use a scanner and check it. So now 3 out of the 5 days, I can't be in my classroom during my prep period. Even more fun on that year, the staff lounge was also a first grade classroom. So there was no staff lounge for me to go to. First of all, we couldn't eat our lunch in there, but on your prep period, I could go sit in a hallway and grade papers or do whatever I was going to do. So just lots of those things that you don't really think about the logistics of until you're kind of in the middle of that sort of a situation.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you like just laid that out. So, I mean, I was just like visually thinking about all those things that you were saying. And when you mentioned the library one, I remember like brought me back to a moment of being in elementary school and walking into the library and our librarian, sitting us all down on a carpet. And we had a pretty big library in my elementary school. And I still have a memory of like, at that time it was the Dewey Decimal System, right? It's like walking to books and looking and pulling off like a Roald Dahl book. I think it was like the BFG or something. And like what you're describing in that moment, I'm feeling like a sense of sadness actually for kids, because there really is something so beautiful about walking around a library,
right,
and walking into a library and seeing all of these books and, that have been like, beautifully curated by the librarian and, just input from, whomever in these books, and being able to choose a book to read, right? Because to your point, that's one of the things that you're helping your kids do is learning
how to make those choices.
Learn how to make those choices, learn how to read, and being able to like immerse themselves in these incredible stories that are so important for creativity, imagination, and innovation for kids.
Right. And the flip side to that, can you imagine teaching 5th grade in half of a library and art in the other half of the library? And there's no wall between them. That year they set it up with some bookshelves, and then I think it was the art teacher's husband built some temporary other dividers to go up on top of the bookshelves, but you could hear from one to the other. So the art teacher's trying to keep people quiet while they're doing art, and the 5th grade teacher's trying to teach 5th grade, and be like, that's not a entirely equitable learning situation for those students compared to where their peers are being educated.
Well, and conducive, like it's just not even right. And I mean, as you're describing that, it's like teachers and like school staff are 100% creative when they need to.
They're going to figure it out.
They're going to figure it out. And then I also think if that were my kid, I wouldn't want them in that type of a space. I would want them in a space that's going to allow them, allow the teacher to do what he or she does best, right? To allow the students to do what they do best, right? And so it's like, we can make these things work. We can make them work. But also as a community, what can we do to support, the kids in our community? What can we do to support our teachers and our, district staff?
And keep the best teachers. I mean, that's another part of what teaching is a stressful profession, and stress isn't bad. It's not bad. Like nursing is a stressful job.
Yeah.
Profession.
Yeah.
Lots of things are stressful. So stress by itself is not bad. But you also, in teaching, you don't want a high turnover rate. You don't want to have teachers coming and going every single year if you don't have to. Obviously, people's lives change and people come and go. But if people are leaving because the circumstance isn't conducive to them doing their best work, well, then we as a community haven't created an environment that we're going to be able to keep the best teachers. And that's what we want. There was one year, the year that we changed the staff lounge into a 1st grade classroom. What people also don't understand is when you find that out. So in Idaho, kindergarten is not mandatory. So you always have a bubble of kids, a group of kids that might live in your school boundaries but aren't in your building for kindergarten. And then for 1st grade, you're going to get them. But you don't necessarily know who they are. Plus, you've got people who are moving in. So 1st grade often doesn't have solid numbers until like right before school's going to start. And so because of that, you only have so much flexibility in anticipating we're going to need to add a 1st grade classroom. You don't always know that. So on this particular year, the year previous, we had last minute added a 1st grade class. That's the year we converted the computer lab into 1st grade over the weekend before open house. That teacher taught for 1 year, and then she chose to move to a different grade in our building. Awesome. She moved to a different grade, but our numbers in April, when she made that choice for the following year, our numbers weren't solid enough to say, okay, right now we know we're still going to have 6, so we've got to hire somebody. They weren't solid enough. So all summer long, we're thinking maybe we'll only have 5, but we've all got 26 on our class list. That's pretty big. Like, we just don't know. Whole summer. We come back to work, the teacher prep days. We still don't know. 5 of us have 26, 27 kids on our list, but the numbers are just not every single day. We're there prepping our classrooms and asking the secretaries, do we have any new kids? Like, what's going to happen? The day of open house, that morning, 10 a.m., we find out, yes, you can hire another teacher. Open house is today. And luckily, our principal's amazing. So she had a plan in place. If we get the go-ahead, yes, the teacher's lounge is going to be it. So you know what you got to do. And she had a person in mind. So we had from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. We've got 5 hours. There's going to be parents and students here to see their first grade class. Like, what are you going to do? So they started school and we did it. But she was also a brand new teacher. So, like, we're not going to make her do that job. So we're all there helping out. You're going to start the school year with a vending machine in your classroom. Like, you don't have cubbies. You don't, like, so many things happening. And again, are you going to make it work? Of course you're going to make it work. And probably those kids didn't even know the difference. They're first graders. Like, they don't know. And it was fine. But the amount of stress that creates and the questioning for parents, they come in and they're like, I'm already a little nervous that this is a person who's never taught school before. And the teacher's lounge is where my kids are going to have school. Like, there's a little bit of uncertainty there that you're trying to help parents, trying to walk them through. Are you going to figure it out? Yeah. Can kids still have a great experience doing that? Of course. Is that the best environment to help a person decide, yeah, this is the profession I want to be in and this is where I want to live my professional life? You don't know.
I love these moments when people are talking about the things that they do, whatever their profession is, and the feelings come out, like, for how much they love what they do, and they love their kids, and they love their school community. And so I so appreciate you conveying that, because that is something that I often experience with teachers or administrators or even school board members. Like, I had a school board member friend who actually got really, he took it really personally when people were criticizing school communities, because he spoke about how his school community had been there for him in a moment of crisis for his family. Right. And so it was like, that's, and when my kids were in elementary school in Lewiston, I still have those feelings of like, oh my gosh, this school community means so much to me. And that's something that, like I mentioned just a minute ago, that's what I often feel from teachers. They love being there. And it's interesting because there's a senator in our state who is on the eastern side of the state, and he has at least one kid that's a teacher. I mean, is an adult child that has a teacher and is a teacher. And he was talking about, like, what could he do, you know, as a lawmaker in Idaho to help raise the bar in terms of helping people understand how incredible and important education is, how vital it is for us as a state to have teachers that know what they're doing, that are expert, you know, content experts, that know how to interact with their school community, and that, like, and also care about the kids that they work with. Like, that's what we want. And having those conversations, I think, is so important in that exchange. Like, I'm so glad that you shared that, but it was like in a way that just like really conveyed how much you love your kids and kids that aren't even like your kids in your, you know, your classroom and your coworkers and your school community. Like, I love that. Thanks so much, Teri. That's awesome.
I'm kind of known for getting a little bit weepy about
I love it.
It just comes out, you know?
I love it. It's awesome. So for you, like, as you're teaching and you're having these experiences, I love to hear about, you know, the things that are hard. And we've kind of talked about some of those things, and some of those hard things are just reality, you know, right. that, you know, elementary school teachers are dealing with in Middleton with the, you know, like, overcapacity in the buildings and what that means. Tell me about like what it means for you to be a teacher and what that's like as the school year starts and then as the school year ends.
So, when a school year starts, it's always this like, I think it's super exciting. Like, even in all the years that I didn't teach, I stayed home with my own kids for 18 years. The back to school flyers, I'm like, I cannot resist a sale on glue sticks. Like, I cannot. So there's that excitement. It's like this excitement of possibility, and I'm going to have all these new humans to meet and see where they are and like, how can I help them? And I get really excited for that beginning, you know? Sometimes there can be a little bit of nervousness too, because it's like, I have a son who's really into F1. My whole family's kind of really into Formula One these days. And I told my kids—
Wait a second, I don't know what that is.
Formula One racing. Like car racing.
Okay.
So I told my kids once, it would be sort of like as if a Formula One driver went to start a race, but they've never seen the course before. Like, they know their car and they know like what racing is, but this particular course they've never driven before. And they're just going to start and go however many 100 miles an hour that they go. And if there's a turn, like, they're just going to go with it. That's in some ways a little bit what the new school year is like. Like, I'm super excited to do the thing that I really love. And I've done it before, so I know what I'm going to teach. But I don't know who my audience is. And that's both scary and exciting at the same time. So then they come and you get started and you start to get a feel for, okay, I've got a few people who are great at this, got a few people who are great at this, got a few people who are going to struggle with this. And you start to kind of tease out and think about, okay, I think I know kind of where we're going to go with this. We're going to have to make some changes. This is going to be the same as last year, but this is going to be a little bit different. Sometimes my husband especially, he's like, don't you get bored of like doing the same thing every year? No way, man. It is different every time. Like, yes, I'm still teaching how to count by 5, but we're doing it in a totally different way than we did before because I have different humans that need something different. So then you start cruising through the year that way and you start to get really attached. I get really attached to my little people. Like, we spend a lot of time together. I get to know them really well. They tell me things about their family that their family doesn't know I know. No, it's real. I love it. It's really fun. And then you're also start to get really tired. Like, teaching is seasonal work. That's the way I've always looked at it. It is seasonal work. I have 8 or 9 months of the year that are very intense work. And then I get some periods of the year where I get to rest, and that's great too. But while you're in it, it's really intense and you start to get really tired. Teachers can struggle kind of from some burnout because they tend to be people who are going to give a lot and maybe not always take care of themselves as well as they should. So you have to kind of balance all of those things out. You battle sickness a lot. You're combining all these people into a space and they're going to bring with them every germ that their family has, you also now might have. So you're going to battle through some of that. You're going to get to enjoy holidays. One thing that I think is really fun about first grade is all the magic is still there. So we get to write letters to Santa. And Santa answers every single letter we write.
Oh my gosh, that's the best.
Super fun. We get to lose teeth and the tooth fairy shows up and like we do all those really fun things. And then you start to turn the corner and January comes and now you're like, okay, is everybody going to have learned what they need to learn? Like, we're starting the downhill slide here. So then you really do your redoubling of so-and-so needs to practice this and I've really got to work on that. And you go through this time up to spring break. And then you get to spring break like we just had. And now you're like staring the end of the school year in the face. And honestly, there are some years where you're like, this cannot come soon enough because it's just been hard. And other years like this year, I have the sweetest class. And if I could just keep them indefinitely, I'd go through 12th grade with them. Like, we'll make it work. So I kind of don't want this year to end because they've been so amazing. But at the same time, it's going to come to a close. So you're trying to get in all the last things that they got to do. And then you're going to shut it down and go swimming. And then you're going to start it all up again.
You're going to start it all up again. It's that really beautiful cycle. I love that you shared that it is different. Like, it is different every year, like that excitement. And I think that's one of the reasons people, stay in the profession and they're there and having these experiences. And it makes me feel so grateful that there are teachers out there that are having, those types of experiences. And I think about how just even as a parent, like I get excited for the start of the year, right? Like, and I will say, one thing that has happened for me though is that like elementary was such an exciting time. And then I feel like as my kids moved into middle school and high school, it became like, like, I don't know, there was something for like, it's as if sometimes the magic goes away. Right. And it just is such a different feel. And but that's something that I just like loved about elementary school was like the magic that is there, the tightness of that school community. And it sounds like your school community has that. And, that's fostered by the teachers and your principal who's out there on the corner, and all of those different things. I mean, that's just so awesome. Yeah. I'm like taking too many words to say. That's like just awesome.
It is. It's great. And I think that one of the reasons elementary school has that feeling is because of the deep connection. Because kids are with their teacher all day long. Like you just know each other really, really well by this point, My class knows that I'm probably going to lose an earring every single week. And I only wear the same earrings pretty much all the time. They know exactly what it looks like. So when I say, oh, my earring's gone, they all know. They look down real quick. Oh, yep, it's over there on the floor. They pick it like we just go on, I know which kids are going to probably tell me every single day that they think they're going to be sick. Like I just know. And I know on the days when they're really sick and when they're probably not. Like you just get to know each other so well. And I think that deep sense of connection is in some ways what kids miss a little bit when they go on to middle school and high school where you're changing classrooms regularly. On the flip side of that, sometimes if you have a year, and all of us who have had kids go through school know that this happens, you might have a year in elementary school where your child and their teacher just are not a great fit. Like sometimes that just happens. So the nice thing that my kids always said about middle school and high school was, well, if I have a teacher that's not a great fit for me, I only have to see them for 1 hour of a day,
Totally.
And so sometimes that happens too, but that is something that's a little bit different about elementary schools, that we just spend so much time together that you just know each other on such a deep level. And that's actually one of the things I really like. Probably the kids I enjoy working with the most are the ones who have the greatest challenges. Like throw me a little boy with some behavior issues and I am in my zone. Like that is just really where I love to live. So I think every elementary school teacher has their niche too. Upper school or upper grade teachers are teaching based on content, what their content preference is. Elementary school teachers, I think, are really in a grade, not because of the content of that grade, it's because of the developmental age of students and where they really like to live. I really like to live in okay, now it's time to learn how to keep your hands to yourself. Now it's time to learn how to have a respectful conversation with someone. Now it's time to learn how to keep track of my own belongings. Like I love to live in that zone. So first grade's a good fit for me. I like to teach to read too, but it's not because of that as much as it is, this is the developmental age of kids that I really, really like. So that's why I teach in that space.
So tell me, like, as we kind of close this conversation, what is something, I mean, I view my lens through which I view a community is often through a school community. Because for me, like when I look at Idaho, schools are at the center of our community so often. So what is something for you about the Middleton school community that someone like me might not know, because I'm not a part of your school community, but makes your school community unique or special or something that you love about it?
I do think the fact that we are a small-ish community is part of what makes it unique. And that can show up in lots of different ways. I don't live in the elementary boundaries of where I teach, but I do live really close to the high school. The high school principal lives on my street about 2 blocks down. The school board member who was on, I think the other day, Jake was on with you. He lives 2 blocks behind me. You go to church, you see kids that you know from school. I went to the high school track meet last night that my son's running in, and one of my students comes running down to give me a big hug. We just all live in very close proximity to one another. And that can be both great and difficult at the same time. You know, my boss, my principal, she has a son who's in the same grade as my son. So they play football together sometimes. They've been involved in different activities together. The school nurse right now in our building teaches half day over at the high school, and she has one of my kids in her class. So there's just a lot of overlap in your relationships with people. And like I said, I think that can actually be a great thing. It can sometimes be tricky because relationships and humans are complicated, but I think it makes you better when you have to find ways to work through complicated situations. I think that just makes everyone involved better at what they do. But I think that Middleton is still small enough that is a uniqueness that we have.
I love that. And it is really true. I mean, to your point, that's how I think for me, we create beautiful things, is learning how to work through that conflict to get to the other side of that really awesome thing that we want. Mm-hmm. And so I love that like what you're saying, like that's something that you guys do in your community. And I love that. And that that's really special. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Mm-hmm. So at the end of every conversation, I have just something that each one of us are going to take away from the conversation. And I'm going to let you decide who goes first. That's like my gift to my guest. Okay. I'll let you decide.
You can go first.
You're like, you can go first. One thing that I'm taking away from the conversation today is the beautiful parts of teaching and how those are impacted by the buildings that we're in, that the teachers and the students are in, but that ultimately teachers are doing what they're doing because they love the profession, they love being with the kids, and the school itself is going to make whatever need to work. That's what we do. Like, that's what educators do for their kids. That's what school staff does for their kids. And I know that for me, I've been a school board member. I know what it's like to go to a community and ask to pass a bond. I know what it's like to visit with community members and help them understand the intricacies of all the different things. I also know what it feels like to be on the other end of that, to just simply be a community member and have a school district ask to pass, a bond or, a plant facility levy. And I also know what it feels like on both of those sides. I know what it feels like to be collaborated with and to simply be told this is what we need and do it. And so I know for me that as I have learned and observed what's going on in Middleton and the several attempts that have been for the bond, that there has been learning from that school board, from the superintendent of the community, right? There's been this back and forth dialogue and a collaboration that has occurred. It's what it appears to me anyways. And so it's always my hope that we have, when we get to this point where a school board has gone to the community and learned what the community is, listened to the feedback, collaborated on a solution, that the community at large will do what is necessary for the schools, for the kids, for the teachers, for the school district, in the same way that the teachers and the schools and the kids are doing with what they already have and in essence for their community.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as a teacher, we go into I don't think there's been anyone ever who decided to become a teacher and afterwards started and said, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't going to get paid that much. You just know, it's okay. It's just part of what you pick up when you do it. So that's not really the issue. People are deciding, do I love this enough to keep going because of the challenges that are involved in it on a day-to-day basis? And is it feeding me as a person? Am I able to grow? And do I feel like I'm able to contribute? So I think that's why people choose to stay in the profession. But I think from our conversation, what I gain is realizing that there are so many people in a community that may be touched by a school in different ways. If you're a parent, obviously you're touched by the schools in certain ways. If you attended those schools as a kid, I mean, I'm always surprised at how many of my friends went to these same schools when they were kids. Then you may not have kids there yet, but you have memories of that school. You have a connection to it, right? Even if you're an older community member, you may have grandkids who are attending that school, Or you may go to church at that school on Sunday. We have a really large church population that attends. The middle school has one on Sunday. Our elementary school does. So a school touches people in lots of different ways, but not everyone has the same access necessarily to information about the school. Because if your children are there, you're getting a lot more communication from the school on a regular basis. But if you don't have kids attending there, you aren't getting as much information continually. And so we're always trying to figure out ways to share out that information with people who don't have children attending the school, and so they wouldn't already know. So a podcast is one way, but mailers and all those different kinds of things, community conversation nights that we can have, so that people just have all the information that they need in order to be able to make a decision. And that there's a lot of places you can get misinformation. So wanting to make sure that people have access to the best information, that then they can make whatever decision that they're going to make is fine. But hopefully they're able to make those choices having the best information available. And then that becomes our job to figure out, okay, and so how are we going to reach them? How are we going to figure out how to get them that information that they need to feel a connection to the school and make a choice?
That's awesome. I'm glad you're taking that away from this conversation today. That's fantastic. That's super great. Well, Teri, thank you so much for being a teacher. And thank you so much for being a teacher that cares. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today to share all about all the things that you do.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.